Block Podcast, where we cut through the noise and keep it real. Just because a cut block is legal doesn't make it right. Kind of like Cory Hogue's takes. Now, here's your host, Cory Hogue.
Thank you, Jesse, and welcome to the Cut Block Podcast. This week, we're cutting through the noise and getting real about Texas FCS teams. Today, we're joined by the great Zach McKinnell from FCS Football Central on SI to hear about his expectations for the 2025 season. And I'll give you the games that you can't miss in this week's weekend warm map. My name is Cory Hogue, the proprietor of CoryHogueSports.substack.com. CoryHogue sports.substack.com. You can find me on social media at Cory Hogue Sports, all one word, CoryHogue Sports. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and review the podcast wherever you listen. You can find every episode on our webpage at thecutblock.podbean.com. Let's dig in. This is the very premiere episode of the Cut Block Podcast, and so here I am, and this is the part where we call In the Trenches. It's my unfiltered thoughts. So I'm going to tell you what format you can expect over these next few episodes, and this one, well, beginning after this initial In the Trenches. It's my blunt takes. That's what we're going to start with. What has got me fired up thinking, what's the main talk right now? My opinions. You want them? This is when you're going to get them. It's going to be in the trenches. Then we're going to have a gridiron briefing. That's going to have interviews with coaches, players, media, administrators across the non-FBS landscape, across all levels. We're going to leave nothing untouched as best we can. Then you're going to get a weekend warm up during the season. After the season, we'll see. But the weekend warm up is going to give you the games I'm watching that weekend, my TV schedule each week. So quick context on some of the military theme behind this. And if you saw my post earlier this week on my Substack, again, CoryHogueSports.substack.com, it was the introduction post about my journey from June 13th, 10:30 a.m. to here we are talking on a brand new podcast and a brand new platform. Dave Campbell's Texas football, they're reorganizing. Unfortunately, I was not part of those plans. And so my position was eliminated. Yeah, I mean, it was tough. You know, it's been a process going through it. Some of it seemed kind of quick and fast, and you're coming up on the 4th of July, and we're coming up on a family trip and everything. But when I finally had time to sit down and think and kind of go through all the different sets of emotions that come with this, and you know, there's the sad and there's the spicy. There are definitely things I wish had been handled a bit differently. But it's a breakup, and no breakup is ever good. I got to thinking about, coaches talk about your why. That's what it is with me, my why. If I'm doing this for me, I'm wasting my time. There's no point in me doing this anymore. I'm going to get off of here. But I'm not. I'm doing this because Zach McKinnell is coming on today. I get to talk with Zach McKinnell, one of the premier guys, him and Sam Herder of FCS in the country. They know so much about every team. I get to talk to him. I get to talk to other members of the media, to coaches, to administrators. I get to find out what's happening and share their stories and share what's going on behind these doors of places you don't always see. But most importantly, you are a big reason why I'm here, because you're listening, because you're reading, you're watching, you follow me somewhere, you found this somehow. The love that you showed me over the last couple of months, I can't ever repay. And so I just want to say thank you. And so many people knew that I didn't have a place to go. I wasn't sure. I'll be honest with you. I was not sure fully about this podcast and this Substack till late last week. And it launched Monday. I mean, that's just, it took time. It took a lot of conversations. It took some counseling. There were things to work through and things to get set and prepared and everything else. But most importantly, I wanted to connect back with you because you guys are so awesome, so important, and I appreciate everyone who listens. So I'm here, and we're going to have a podcast. Most weeks we'll have a podcast. Going to last about 30 minutes long. You'll get some things on Substack right now. Listen, podcasts, you're going to get blunt honesty about what's going on, especially mental health wise. But when it comes to the Substack, you're going to get right now, you're going to get your weekend war map posted on Thursdays that we put out here on the podcast. You're going to get a reaction piece, kind of you could call it a Cory's clipboard. I don't really like to call things that over and over again. But it'll be a reaction piece to what I saw that weekend, and that will come out on Sundays. Right now, I can't tell you of any more posts. We'll see. As I get inspired and as things come and as time plays out, I will do what I can, but I'm going to take this time to really also focus on me. That was the big thing I learned through this, is that it was time for me to make a change for myself and for my health, and to get healthier and to get better. And so far, I'm finding I'm a lot more productive as I'm doing this, which is really, really strange. But we're here. We're going to have a lot of fun. The Cut Block podcast is listener supported. If you have the means, I'd be honored to have you as a paying subscriber at CoryHogueSports.substack.com. Paid subscribers get every story delivered right to their inbox. Annual subscribers get 6 months free. And founding members, I don't call you founding members. I call you Cory's All-Stars, because you get early access plus my undying love. Now it's time for the Gridiron Briefing, where we get the intel straight from the field. This week, we've got the founder and senior editor of FCS Football Central and SI, contributor to Hero Sports FCS and Athlon Sports. He's the official FCS Top 25 voter and a proud Auburn graduate, a man who is busy right now with his time. But Zach McKinnell took time to come on the Cut Block podcast. Thank you so much, man. It's great to have you here.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Man, I'm really, really glad to see you launching the show. And, man, me and you have talked offline, man. Love your content. I don't think anybody covers small school Texas football like you do, man. And you do a heck of a job. So I just appreciate you thinking of me and inviting me on the show.
Well, hey, thank you, man. I think we've been doing this about the same amount of time. You've got all of FCS, which – look, you can have that, right? Like, non-FBS has got enough teams for me. I don't know how you guys handle something nationally, but it's so great to have you on. And it's a great year for Texas FCS football. You're talking. There was a comment the other day I made on Twitter that there are at least 4 teams that I believe have legitimate shots at having a playoff season this year.
Yeah, I think so. And I to expand that maybe even further, I think you have 2 teams that can make really deep runs in the playoffs too, coming from the FCS level. And I think 4 is probably where I would put it. I do have some questions about the bottom 2 if we're thinking about the same teams here, but I think the conversation here starts with Tarleton State and Incarnate Word. Those 2 teams, to me, Cory, are so. They've done such a good job. And I'll say this, I think Tarleton makes sense, right? When you look at the investment, you look at the resources, you look at how vocal they were before they even moved to the FCS level. Like, Cory, you've probably been around more people than me in person. There was no doubt when they moved up, they said, we're going to win an FCS national title. We are going to compete nationally, come hell or high water, whatever money we have to put in, whatever facilities we have to build, we're competing. I still think it's underappreciated. And I remember I wrote a column on this, I think 2 years ago with Sam Herder on Hero Sports. I don't think Incarnate Word gets enough credit. And there's a lot of people who push back on them being a national contender. There's a lot of people that say they don't have the strength of schedule, they don't win the big games, whatever the excuse may be, which is fine. Everyone can have their opinion. But look at where this program came from, Corey. When they initially got started, they were on college game day, what was it, 2012, 2013, whatever it was, and got ravaged by North Dakota State live on ESPN. And then just a handful of years later, they're back playing North Dakota State in the semifinals with a chance to go to the national championship with arguably one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen in recent memory at the FCS level in Lindsey Scott. And even with the coaching changes, Corey, they still have continued that. And me and you have both been around. That program does not have the resources that any of the other top 25 teams in the FCS have. I mean, they are probably, when you look at the facilities that they have on that campus and the resources behind athletics, they're probably closer to bottom 25 than they are the top 25, really and truly. And the fact that they're so successful does not get enough credit, in my opinion, when talking in terms of how improbable are some of these teams that are competing near the top of the FCS, how improbable are.
Yeah, I mean, I am old enough to remember when UIW was getting blasted in the Lone Star Conference years ago. And I want to go back. You said that about Tarleton. They made no bones about it. They want to go FBS. They're headed that way. They've got the facilities. They've got everything going. They want to compete and be good at FCS before they go FBS. I think that they're one of the teams that have a real shot at a run. Like you said this year, UIW, man, we're in the state of Texas. That is a 3A high school stadium. That's just what it is.
At best.
I don't know what they need to do, what it's going to take. I know the AD, Richard Duran, does a tremendous job. Clint Killow does a great job with the resources that he has, as limited as they are. I don't know what they can do, but this is a program that still every year is fighting for a playoffs, a quarterfinal, semifinal spot.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And I think the biggest thing that gets me with Incarnate Word is, Corey, at the FCS level, we've seen teams have success under one regime, right? Where they have the head coach and they get really hot, but then once that head coach leaves, they kind of revert back to the mean. I think the thing with Incarnate Word is we've seen this kind of be able to continue over multiple coaches now, which makes me think that it's not just a blip on the radar. It's not just a mistake happening. Like they are literally finding a way to recruit players in the NIL era with no NIL, Corey.
Yeah.
They're finding a way to retain and get top players with with not much NIL funding or none, and they're finding a way to win on the field. And they've been like a step behind those top elite programs, which I don't think is a negative for the program, right, Corey? I mean, everybody in the FCS is a step behind North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State. But when you talk about that next tier, the guys that are bumping up against that glass ceiling to get to the top tier, you have to start with Incarnate Word. They've been there. They have the postseason experience now, which is so big, right? Which I think that's kind of what reared its head with Tarleton last year, is they just didn't know what it took to win in the postseason last year. Offensively, they were there, right? With Darius Cooper, Victor played really well. They put up 31 points in Vermilion. But the problem was, I don't know if they had the trenches per se to really make that long-term push in the postseason. And I think Incarnate Word's still building to there, but it takes a few times getting your teeth kicked in the playoffs, Corey, at this level to figure out what you need and how, in the roster structure you need to build. But I'm with you, man. I think the fact that it's continued over multiple coaches is the biggest thing with Incarnate Word, and which is why I'm high on them this year, because they actually have some staff continuity now, a bunch of roster continuity. And you can kind of say the same thing with Tarleton State, right? Like Witten's been there forever.
Two terms. This is his second term there.
Yeah, 2 different terms. And then on top of that, too, they might have the most roster continuity of any of the Texas schools. They have so many guys coming back, and I don't know how. And if they can just figure out running back, man, that team's going to be really, really good, in my opinion.
I think so too. And when you look at Incarnate Word, they made the playoffs last year. You look at Tarleton, like you said, they made the playoffs. There's another team, Abilene Christian, made the playoffs. And as I talked to all three coaches, I asked them, what is the difference? All three coaches said to a man exactly what you said, the trenches. They are not ready in the trenches. And so is a team like Tarleton, UIW, Abilene, and I'm throwing Lamar in as a possibility here, are they all deep enough in the trenches to compete yet at the playoff level?
I think Tarleton has a good foundation built to compete in the trenches. I like what they return, especially along the defensive line. I think edge is a spot that I want to see them take a step forward in, because I think at edge, they really didn't have a guy that could go and get the quarterback when they really needed to. I do think they have enough depth interior-wise on the defensive line. The one I'm really concerned about, though, is Abilene, and that's why I kind of hesitated to go with you on 4 teams in the playoffs, just because I think Abilene has experience in a few positions, but in all the key positions, the experience coming back, and that's what worries me. They got to replace everybody at running back. They have 0 returning significant contributors on the offensive line. They have 0 returning defensive significant contributors at defensive tackle. Those are 2 or 3 spots where you're going to have to find someone. Now, running back, I do think adding the kid from East Texas A&M, you're going to have him. You're going to have E.J. Wilson from Temple come in. So, like, running be fine. You got the kid from, I think, K-State coming in as well. But offensive linemen, they have a bunch of guys who are not proven. And it takes a lot for me to buy into the chemistry, the communication, how fast do they gel. I think if Abilene Christian is going to make that jump, Cory, it's going to take a remarkable coaching job off from that offensive staff, specifically the offensive line coach, to get that offensive line where it needs to be. Because I thought last year their offensive line was one of the better ones in FCS. I thought they ran the ball so well. I know everyone wants to talk about McIver and that passing attack. Nobody could stop Sam Hicks and that rushing attack, and it started with the offensive line. And if you go back and watch the film of that NAU game in the playoffs, their 2 defensive tackles wreaked havoc that game. And
that's
so
why they're FBS
I really
now.
do. Exactly. There's a reason why they lost them. And so I think Abilene is probably the least ready. Lamar hasn't been there. So I still think maybe even if they get there, right, the problem with them is I think Stephen F. Austin would be my pick over Lamar to get there personally.
Yeah. Look,
I
I could go 5 this year, right? Five teams that start the year with a possibility, because Stephen F., like you mentioned, they've got quarterback back with Vidlac. They've got all that. I am with you on that. I think Stephen F., Lamar. The fact is, this is a great time for Texas FCS football.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because I'll tell you this. I'm very, very high on Stephen F. Austin. I had them 15th in my top 25 preseason. So obviously, Incarnate Word was my highest team. Then you had Tarleton. Then so Stephen F. Austin was technically my number 3 team. I think with the way their schedule lays out, Cory, if Incarnate Word takes one misstep, I think Stephen F. Austin is going to be in an excellent position to capitalize on that. And I would not be surprised if they. Yeah, and you look at their contributors, man. They return all 5 significant contributors on the offensive line, 4 defensive tackles that played over 200 snaps last year, both their top edge rushers. You got 5 wide receivers coming back, along with Vidlac, 2 of your top running backs, 3 of your best linebackers. You only returned 2 corners, but one of them was a preseason All-American, and they went crazy in the portal in terms of bringing guys in with a ton of experience. They brought in a ton of D2 guys that I'm actually really excited for. And you add Richard Reese, who was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year at Baylor a few years ago. So they're going to have an insane amount of talent, man. I'm really excited to see Stephen F. Austin, but the problem is I still question the coaching a bit, because we haven't seen this staff be able to deliver yet when the preseason expectations are really high.
Well, it is a staff that does have a head coach with a national title, and that's a lot of the reason why he's at SFA right now. I don't necessarily worry about the coaching, but I will say that this is a big year for Colby Carthel and that staff. Moving on to the SWAC, there is a team down south in Texas that has been making some noise, and Prairie View and Tremaine Jackson. I think it's a tremendous hire. I think they're going to still surprise people. But what do you give of the talk? What do you think about them? And hey, look, they've got Texas Southern coming up week 1.
I'm a believer in the Panthers, man. I'll be honest. I'm buying the hype. Now, am I buying the hype that they're going to go win the SWAC year 1? Probably not. I personally don't think they're going to win the SWAC year 1, but I do think they're like, why couldn't they go win the West, Corey? We've seen Southern win it with first year head coaches. We've seen bad PV teams win the West recently. And so why would I think they couldn't go win the West? Now, the one question mark is quarterback. They have a ton of guys that are on the roster competing for that spot. I have some inkling of who I thought would be the guy, but until we see Tremaine Jackson roll out someone out there, we don't know who's going to be the starter. And he's already said he's not announcing the starter, which I'm fine with. Yeah. But, man, when you look across the rest of the roster, they added 15 players that has significant experience at the Division I level, 35 of over 30, 40 Division I transfers, multiple D2 guys that were contributors as well. We had them with the number 4 transfer portal class in the FCS. Love Malachi Williams from West Georgia, Andre Dennis at wide receiver, Dylan Spencer on the offensive line from Central Arkansas. This team is going to be a lot better. I like how the schedule lays out. There's a big, easy part where they're going to be able to rack up a lot of wins. But then the one concern I have is that they have some key conference games that are going to be tough on the road. They're going to have to find a way to win on the road. But I personally think they're going to be much better, Corey, and I will not be surprised if they make a push for the SWAC championship, man. And I really do think coaching plays a part in that because Tremaine Jackson is proven as a head coach, and he's going to go out there and I think he's going to change the trajectory of this program a bit.
I agree. Tremaine is different. Talking with Zach McKinnell, founder, senior editor of FCS Football Central on SI. Got a couple minutes with you, a couple more questions. Listen, it's not just football on the field right now. We've got revenue sharing and roster limits going on. Have we seen much effect of this at the FCS level yet? And what do you think we're going to see come the next year or so?
Maybe I'm in the minority here. I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on the FCS. Like, will we see a few things change? Probably. But, Corey, all it's going to do is allow some of these schools to play with those with those grants, with those half scholarships, with the partial scholarships, and play with them a little bit more than they already do. There's not an FCS program in the FCS that can afford 105 full scholarships. There's just not. Yeah. There's probably not a bunch that can afford a full 85. And so all it's going to do is allow them more flexibility with walk-ons, getting those guys a little bit of extra money, maybe bringing in a handful of other high school guys. The one thing I will say, the hopefully the positive effect, and I still think there's going to be a workaround, and I ultimately don't think it's going to trickle down as much as everyone thinks, is it will be nice, though, if FBS programs are going to have some sort of a cap where maybe you can't come down and offer the left tackle in Incarnate Word $900,000 to transfer up. Yeah. That would be nice, right?
Yeah. And who wouldn't take that too?
Yeah, right. Because you'd be dumb to say no.
Yeah.
Why would you? I would listen. I remember when I was 19, I would have been gone first flight out of San Antonio for $900K. And I don't blame the players for taking it, but I still think there's going to be some sort of a workaround, Corey. We know, like TCU, Texas Tech, some of these FBS, they're going to find a way to find more money. And there's going to be workarounds. And the best player – so here's the good thing. Maybe Incarnate Word doesn't lose a depth piece, right? Yeah. That would ultimately get offered, a few $1,000s to transfer up. Maybe that player stays. But if you have a superstar – it's going to be really hard to get them to stay in this new age regardless. I ultimately think that with the way the finances work in the FCS, we're not going to see a big change. Like, really and truly, these rule changes, Corey, in this new landscape, this is for the P4 programs. Because there's a lot of G5 programs masquerading as FBS programs that aren't going to be able to participate the way they think they are. I would like to see, though, I would like to see more FCS programs take advantage of the fact that a lot of these top programs are missing on some of these overlooked 3-star, maybe lower 4-star high school recruits. That's where the FCS should take advantage. And I don't know if a lot of them have yet, but man, if you're in Texas, there's no reason that Stephen F. Austin, Incarnate Word, Lamar can't get the overlooked 3-star kid who's playing high-level Texas football that just got overlooked, right? Or there wasn't a spot for him at TCU because they went and signed 30 transfers. That's where I would like to see the FCS programs really take advantage of this new landscape.
And I think that's where we will. I think the roster cap is the biggest thing because they, in my opinion, an FBS now coming down into FCS to take a guy, it's going to be if they need a starter. They're not going to come and get depth pieces, I don't think, and pay them, the $1 million that they're going to give. I just don't see that continuing. So I also think that the limits will help some of that talent float back down into FCS and D2. And you're right, man. In the state of Texas, there's already a big fight between FCS, D2s, and FBS schools for these 3-stars and 2-stars, and they find these under Cam Ward. Cam Ward had no stars, right?
Yes.
Eric Morris found he was at a camp, and here we go. He becomes number 1 draft pick and Heisman guy and everything. It's just there's so much talent here. I'm with you. There's one other thing, though. With all the talent here, we don't have the tradition of FCS dominance per se. That belongs to the teams up north. But we did have the title game. We had it in Frisco for a long time. I know they're redoing the stadium. It's going to Nashville for a couple years, but see, Zach, that concerns me because I want it back. What do you think the odds are that it comes back either to the same stadium or maybe they find a little bigger place with a little better venue, because we know there's tons of $60 million high school venues all around the Metroplex.
I think there's a good chance it comes back to Frisco personally. It's impossible to predict. I think the telltale sign, I could give you a better answer in January this year after we see what it looks like in Nashville. If Nashville buys in like Frisco did, and the fans actually get more excited to go to Nashville because of the surrounding things to do, right? Like, I mean, let's just be honest. Nashville is the city right now when you talk about where you want to go in Tennessee, that Alabama area, even a little bit of Georgia. Everyone wants to go to Nashville. If the city buys in, the fans like it more, the attendance goes up a little bit. I don't know, man. Like it could be a little tough for Frisco to snatch it back, but I don't think Nashville, because there's so much stuff going on, the way Frisco invested in the game, the way Frisco promoted the game, how excited they were, how invested they were in making it a good experience for the fans. I don't know if you're going to necessarily get that in Nashville. I think there's a really good shot it reverts back to Frisco after the stadium renovation is up. And now you're going to have a better bargaining tool if you're Frisco too, because look, that stadium's going to look so nice, man. And how cool would it be to have it there? I don't think they find another venue in Texas. And here's one thing, Cory, maybe it's petty, right? And I'm acknowledging it's petty. They don't want to. They don't want the talk of, oh, well, you play your national championship in a high school stadium.
Yeah.
Regardless of how nice it is, you don't want to revert that because, heck, Cory, I mean, listen, I'm from the South. You're from, like, you live in Texas. The Texas high schools don't even play their natty in a high school stadium. They go and play in Jerry World. And so, come on, man, we can't do that. Like, I think it was D2 plays in a high school stadium, if I'm not mistaken.
They play in McKinney, yes.
Yeah, I don't think the FCS is going to do that. I think they'll either play in the soccer stadium or they'll take it elsewhere.
Well, and by bigger venues, I wasn't thinking necessarily as much high schools. But Arlington, the old baseball field is now a football field.
That would be a maybe. I think, and the problem would be is, I think the ultimate goal would be to play it in a bigger stadium overall. Because I was there last year. It was packed out last year for Montana State, North Dakota State.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a big enough game right now where you could go play it somewhere like Jerry World. And that's the issue.
No, you're not. But I think the former, whatever they call it now, Choctaw, whatever that park is that the Rangers used to play in that now hosts football. Maybe there. Look, that's not why it needs to be in Frisco, though. And I'm going to tell you as a Texan, I don't want it anywhere but Frisco. And it's the reasons you've already mentioned. They embraced this game. They made it Frisco. It is embedded in the identity of the city now, this FCS national title game. The city has grown around it. It really has. And it's the fans, they get an A+ experience. The players get an A+ experience. And that's why I personally want to see it come back to Frisco, because I know how much they care about that game.
Tongue in cheek, though, I know it will never stop because I got friends who live in the area. Do you think the construction on 35 might be done by the time we get back in 2 years? Or you think they're going to find another spot on 35 to make the traffic even worse?
Zach, man, listen, as long as I've been here, 35 ain't been done. And it's never going to be done.
I lived in Kansas, and we used to come down all the time. It was still being done when I was in grad school when I lived in Kansas. It's 35 is always under construction. I hate it so much, though.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I try to avoid it if I can, but if I have to go, you got to have Waze or some sort of app like that tells you when it's all coming up.
Gosh, man, it's insane. Like every year I drive through, I think it's going to be a little bit better. And all they do is just move the construction a little bit further north or south. Like it's never done anywhere.
No, and as soon as they finish the final part, they got to go back to the beginning and start it over again. It's a never-ending cycle. Zach, hey, I appreciate you so much for coming on the podcast. Tell people where they can find you and how to get all your stuff.
Yeah, man. FCS Football Central on si.com/college/FCS, at Zach McKinnell on social media. Then the Blue Bloods on YouTube, all podcast streaming platforms. My co-host, Coach Leroy Frederick, assistant head coach down at Alcorn State, and Timothy Rosario, who's our national contributor for the website. And you can find us on social media at @_Blue Bloods on everything, man. So, man, Cory, again, like I said earlier, man, it's so great to see this show get off the ground, man. One of the best in the business, man. I'm hopefully get to catch you into some games this year. Hopefully one of these Texas schools makes it to Nashville, man, and we can go kick it downtown.
That would be great, Zach. Listen, you do such a fantastic job. You and Sam Herder, you guys are the kings of the national FCS landscape right now. Really appreciate you coming on. I could talk to you all day about this football stuff, man. So we're going to have to get you back on here in a couple of months. What do you say?
Anytime, man. You know where to find me. Just hit me up and I'll make time for you, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zach. Stay connected with me on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and more. Just search at Cory Hogue Sports, CoryHogue Sports, or send me an email to get in contact with me at CoryHogueSports@gmail.com. Here's your mission brief for this weekend. We call it the weekend warm up. These are the games that I am locked in on this week. And it starts, this is my viewing schedule. 11 a.m. Saturday morning. All these games are Saturday, and all these times are Central. And by the way, in honor of military, you'll see that the time is in military time, which if you subtract 1200 from the number, you will get the AM, the 12-hour clock time, the AM PM. 1100 hours, 11 a.m. Trinity Valley at Independence. Going to be watching that on the KJCCC Sportsnet. Listen, this is going to be a fantastic game. True JUCO Blue Bloods, Trinity Valley's coming in ranked in the top 15 to start the season. It's going to be a fun one there. Trinity Valley, they played last year. It was an overtime game. So we'll see. Trinity Valley, the thing about these games is it really marks who is going to have a chance at the end of the national title. It's a big resume bullet point. Obviously, you got to get through your brutal conference, whether it's the KJCCC Conference of Independence or the Southwestern Junior College Football Conference of Trinity Valley. You got to get through those. It's going to be tough, but we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to that. And an hour later, I got two screens. I'm going to have them both going 1,200 hours. UIW at Nichols on ESPN2. And listen, this is the Southland Showcase. This is the time for the Southland to show out. Commissioner Chris Grant, he was at Tarleton last year. when they had their game on ESPN2. He saw the pomp. He saw the circumstance. He saw how it helped propel the university and the conference. Nationally, he hopes the same thing happens for the Southland, because let's face it, it should be a 2-bid league in the Southland Conference. You will hear that a lot this season. They deserve 2 bids in the Southland again. It's not the Southland Conference that Chris Grant took over 4 years ago. After that game, speaking of Tarleton, they're on the road this year at 15:30. That's 3:30 p.m. They play at Portland State, also on ESPN2. Listen, it's tricky. You got to go on the road. The Vikings aren't a bad team. A lot of expectations for Todd Whitten this year. Lots of expectations. And the last time they had this many expectations, Ben Holmes was the quarterback, and they were playing in the god-awful snowstorm up in Minnesota. Quarterback Victor Gabalis is back. It's his 3rd year. They've got an offensive line. They've got all these returners. They've been so good at keeping everybody together. A lot is expected. This first game is could be a little touchy sometimes, especially with so many expectations. Interested to see how the Texans come out there. And then ending the night at 1900, that is 7 p.m., Dodge City at Tyler. That's going to be on the Tyler Junior College YouTube page. And last year was just a Mother Nature storm after the other. It was delayed nonstop. Dodge City took an early lead. Tyler came back and answered a defensive interception, helped get a touchdown and get them back on the board. And then Dodge City came back late in the night, and I mean late in the night, to pull out that victory over Tyler. And they meet again Saturday. We are already back to the start of the season. And with that, I want to say thank you for joining me on this episode of the Cut Block Podcast. I'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, stay safe. And remember, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Just like my takes.
Thank you for listening to the Cut Block Podcast with Cory Hogue. Remember, the cut block might be legal, but that doesn't make it right.